doomed her from the start. Eerie omens and premonitions seemed to point to disaster.
My father had a very bad dream before he left, but he would never tell my mother what it was.
Did the greedy, powerful men in control put a quest for profits above safety, condemning 1,500 passengers to untimely death?
The ship was designed to have 64 lifeboats, but they needed to have more luxury and better views, and so they moved it down to 16.
And now, the Titanic herself breaks a decades-old silence. Does her wreckage cry proof of criminal negligence or even mass murder?
And I saw the ship go and I heard the horrid sounds of people drowning.
Were the official investigations nothing but a scandalous mockery? The greatest cover-up of its day? What really sank the ship? Was it a jinx captain who had already wrecked the Titanic's sister ship? Or was it the man who ran the company, who risked safety for glory? Was it new but untried technology? Or was it all a hoax? A giant insurance scam gone awry?
They were fully intending to sink it. I don't think they actually intended to kill all those people, although they weren't too worried one way or the other.
Finally, long-asked questions can now be answered. Our own tests settled the controversy over whether Captain Smith ignored actions which could have saved the day.
By leaving the watertight doors open, maybe the ship would have survived longer.
This is the Titanic story you haven't heard before. The true story, stripped of the mysteries, deceits, and cover-ups that have shrouded it for decades. This is the story the ship herself tells, as she finally reveals the surprising truth about her deepest, long-guarded secrets. The Titanic captivated the world from the start. In an age of bold new achievements, airplanes, automobiles, skyscrapers, nothing stood out more than the Titanic. She was not only the biggest ship ever built, she was unsinkable. We had tamed the ocean itself, or so we thought. That she would end her one and only voyage as a steel coffin on the bottom of the sea seemed impossible. But in 5 short days, Her Majesty would end and her mystery would begin. It is April 10, 1912. Wildly cheering crowds have come to witness the departure of the greatest ship ever built. Passengers include not only the famously rich, with names like Astor and Guggenheim, but humble immigrants with dreams of the new world.
We decided to sell up everything and go to America and open a hotel in Seattle.
The late Edith Heisman was one of the Titanic's survivors. Then 15, she saw 2/3 of the passengers she boarded with die, including several on her deck she had befriended. But the Titanic's tragic end never diminished her memory of seeing the great ship for the first time and the awe she felt.
I stood there and I looked at that great big ship. She's very high. And I thought, my word, it was a floating palace. It's really the most beautiful ship I've ever seen.
Titanic was the ultimate in sea travel. She was bigger, set new levels of style, comfort, and elegance, and she was invincible.
Bruce Ismay was very desirous as the leader of the White Star Lines and the man who could make a lot of money out of the domination of these sea lines to succeed.
With millions at stake, Ismay set in motion dramatic plans to rule the waves. In 1908, an army of Irish laborers began work on his ambitious vision. A revolutionary new generation of passenger ships. The biggest, most luxurious liners ever conceived. They'd be the weapon he needed to take the lion's share of passage between Europe and America. Within 2 years, the Olympic was launched. The biggest ship the world had ever seen. But it wasn't enough. Ismay wanted more. The shipyard now turned to building the vessel that would give it to him, the Titanic.
It was very much a labor-intensive job. When you see the standards of workmanship, we always wondered how on earth they managed with the facilities, the limited facilities that they had compared with what we use nowadays.
14,000 men worked night and day to ready the ship for launch. By then, its fame had already grown so great that 100,000 people gathered to watch as it slid gracefully into the water. Among them was an enthralled young boy who later became a motion picture producer and turned his memories into the movie A Night to Remember.
I was a little boy, 6 years old, and I looked up from the platform, this enormous ship way up above me, and then suddenly it started to slide away into the sea, and I felt that I was sliding backwards instead of the ship. I never forgot it. An extraordinary impression on me.
Everything about the Titanic was wondrous, starting with her size. She was almost 900 feet long, about 4 city blocks, 220 feet high. Just one of her anchors weighed 15 tons. A fortune was spent on her posh and elegant interior, though some think that money might have been better spent elsewhere.
Legend is that they spared no expense. They did. The fact that she had the triple screw made her clumsy and less maneuverable.
Smaller, faster liners of the day used 4 propellers, or screws. But Titanic, in what was thought to be a technological advance, was built with a new 3-propeller configuration. Unfortunately, this new technology had a hidden flaw, which would prove to play a major role in the Titanic's disaster. It made the massive ship hard to stop and slow to turn. But to adoring passengers like the young Eva Hart, the ship was magnificent.
I can see the Titanic if I close my eyes very clearly.
For the late Eva Hart, like hundreds of others, fate, in the form of a labor dispute, was to change forever the course of her life.
We were booked in a ship called the Philadelphia. And there was a coal strike and she didn't sail. And we were transferred to the Titanic, which everyone thought was a wonderful piece of luck.
It wasn't luck. It was a brilliant coup by Bruce Ismay. As the coal strike began shutting down competing liners, Ismay called his fleet into port and bet everything on one ship, his new Titanic.
There was a real shortage of coal, and a number of steamships were docked, and their passengers were transferred to the Titanic and also their coal.
Now, to reach America, there was only one ticket. One ship with enough coal to make it. And bookings were brisk.